Good morning. It's Friday, March the 28th. Today's a teacher work day, so I'm here trying to do some grading. It's the end of our third 9 weeks, first quarter for our second semester students' classes. So I wanted to take an opportunity to talk about two books very quickly. Wearing, first of all, my Trash Panda hat. I had a student last semester that really loved raccoons, and so wearing this in honor of him, but also I picked this up at I think it was the park in Gates County. Anyway, I can wear a hat today since it's since it's a teacher work day. But so I wanted to talk about a little bit about Frankenstein and two CPBs I'm going to use with Frankenstein. So I had done an excerpt from it, chapter 5, when Victor actually creates the creature and rejects it, is just horrified by what he's created. We actually did that I guess the 20th of March. We came back in, we spent the 19th, my first and fourth bell, we'd gone to visit our first graders and meet them and spent the day with them. And we came back, and typically I have students do empathy mapping the very next day. We've worked on that word empathy, and they go in prepared how to interview, how to observe, how to soak in everything they can about that child. But some things, some different dynamics happened on the 19th than what we had experienced in the past. And so because of that, I thought, I need to take time and space and let students, like my seniors, because we've done a lot of coaching, a lot of work on getting them ready and attending to the needs and the ideas of the first graders, but I have not intentionally created as much space, I guess, as for the seniors themselves. First nerves, first kind of experiences, meeting the child, and how did it turn out. So we did some react and respond writing. So the react was, I asked them to write uncensored, just their thoughts, their feelings at the first graders, and what they thought, the good, the bad, the ugly, the concerns. And then I did a lesson on where we read chapter 5, excerpt from chapter 5 of Shelley's Frankenstein, and to put it in the context of what happens when we create something and it doesn't turn out exactly what we have imagined. Do we reject the creature, as Victor did? And not that the first graders are creatures by any means, but when I'm talking about creating, I'm talking about making, like this whole project. It's more than just the children's book that they write themselves. It's the connection. It's the collaboration. It's the relationship. So they then turned around after we read and discussed that scene in Frankenstein, and they did some heart writing, responding writing. I talked to them about the difference between react and respond. So that went incredibly well. Anyway, so then this past week we have worked on letters, writing letters to our first graders. We've created empathy maps, and we've written letters, and I'm very excited about the envelopes that they're going to create on Monday. I gave them an option. Would you like to do a more traditional envelope, or would you like to create an envelope? I was inspired by something I saw on social media. So they're really excited about their envelopes that they're going to create Monday, and we're going to get these in the inner office mail and send these to our first graders. So we have aligned that with reading the 4 letters that Robert Walton writes to his sister Margaret in Frankenstein as part of this frame story. So I've had them read, and we've been doing Space Cat on each of the letters. They'll take a quiz on Monday over that. But just kind of looking at letter writing as not only a rhetorical choice, but the art of letter writing, and what maybe is being lost over time because it's definitely a more dated genre. But I think that they've enjoyed writing to their first graders with that. So as we then dig into the actual Frankenstein, to the actual what's in the frame, starting in with the first chapter, I want to get them ready for the idea about how this idea of rejection and making something, looking at that continue to do some exploration with that, because I think there's so much. This, again, is what makes Frankenstein continue to be just as relevant as ever. So many things. We actually talked a little bit about Ocean Gate, the incident that happened a couple of years ago, and I see that there's a documentary. There's a 60-minute special I saw, but there's also a documentary, a 40-minute documentary I want to watch on Netflix and bring in excerpts from that. What happens when we become so arrogant that we are crossing those boundaries, those lines, without even thinking about possible consequences. So we're going to take a look at that, but I also want to go back to this idea of when we start making things and we reject. And as most folks know, the monster in the actual novel Frankenstein is not the monster, okay? He's not, the creature never really gets a name, and there's a tie-in to naming and the importance of that. I started off this semester with having my students illustrate their names, and I reminded them of that the other day. Naming is important. And so, but what happened, so my principal came in one day and was like, well, that the creature is, that Frankenstein is not the monster. That's a common misconception you see out there, because we attach, oh, that's Frankenstein, the monster. You see it in pop culture, and it's not. It is, but it isn't. Frankenstein is the monster, which is the great irony in this book. Victor Frankenstein is the monster. We talk about the creature being Victor's doppelganger. And so I've been thinking a lot about when we start rejecting things that we've created, when it doesn't align with our vision, and even when we start rejecting things about ourselves. And so I think there's a lot to explore. It's kind of a rite of passage that we reject things about our bodies, okay, the way that we are made, and when we start focusing on it. So I want to look at two CPBs in particular today, or in this video that I'm going to be using with my class. This one is Suzy Lee, and it is titled, let me see if I can get my hands off of it so I can hold it up better for you. It is a wordless picture book. This came out in 2003. Suzy Lee, again, is the illustrator. Look at the back. And it's titled Mirror, Mirror. I'll show you the end pages. So, and it's the same thing at the back. So if you kind of focus in, you can see it's like the dual image in the mirror. And this is such a powerful book. And I'm going to use this when we get to the part where the creature sees himself, when he's looking in the water and sees himself. So this starts off with the little girl, right, bent over, and look at the fabulous use. Again, this is wordless, so all the narrative is in the pictures only, but the use of positive and negative space here. And this will be one that I will have students really examine and analyze, the choices, the rhetorical choices here. And then we've got, then this is when the mirror, put back, starts. And this little girl always, all this white space, and she's usually in the corner, although she does move into the center, right? So this idea of trauma or something, that rejection. And I think I will be starting off with without giving them a lot of context. I don't want to plant. I like to scaffold, but I also like to leave lots of space for their interpretations and their ideas. So I think I'm going to start this off. I'll probably make copies at each table and have them assign words for each spread. A word for each spread. So look at this. This is some very deep psychological. It invites psychological analysis. Look at this spread, right? And how the emotions change. And what I will probably do is give them a wheel of emotions with tone words, and have them assign for each spread and defend their choices. Again, we're always working on claims and evidence. And what's interesting is, it goes all the way back to kind of the beginning. And what we have here is when this child, this is the first spread where it's not exactly a mirror image, right? So we have the mirror on the right-hand side. And that's a climax. And then look at what happens. The mirror shatters, right? And then we have that was the last spread. Oh, I'm sorry. No, we go back to the mirror image of the very beginning. All right, so I think I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna have them read this, and I'm gonna have them assign words, just a simple word, to particular spreads and defend that. And have them do some work there first before I have them start thinking about Frankenstein. And then I think I will have them line up, how does this match, or how does this align, doesn't necessarily match, but how does it align with when the creature sees himself in the creek when he's looking in the water. So there are of course other things from mythology that I can pull in this as well. And this is a good idea also. This is a great way to talk about doppelganger, which is one of the literary terms that I pull in and have them talk about and explore more so in depth with my AP, but I think academic definitely that they are mature enough to understand that concept. So that's the first one. I'm really excited about this. Mirror. It's just, if I go back and show you the cover, it's mirror. I don't know why I said it twice, but because it's the reflection, mirror, mirror. So again, very clever what's going on here in so many ways rhetorically. And then, so there's something, I think you see the gravity and the poignancy of when the creature sees himself, and we've all rejected things about ourselves. That's pretty common. I would be hard-pressed to name somebody that has not at some point rejected something about himself or herself. What's interesting is to kind of think about why we reject things about ourselves. Sometimes, there are things that as human beings, we've let things get out of control. Like, I'm always struggling. I've struggled the majority of my life with my weight. And so, and it's only been in the past 5 years that I've kind of gotten a little bit more hold of it and really tried to work, more intentional, focused work with swimming. Those of you that know me know that I have, swimming has been a lot to me the past 5 years, and it continues to be. I'm going kind of through a little bit of a slump right now. I've been sick, and the past couple months it's been really hard to get to the pool regularly, but I have always found that swimming is such a therapeutic relief for me in so many ways, not just with weight. But that's my issue. But if I go back and think about stuff that I rejected about myself, early on it was my eyes and the color of my hair. I can remember my cousins, Beth and Robin, they're twins. Shout out to them. I just thought they had the most beautiful hair. They were called towheads, and they had that white blonde hair as little kids. And I just, we always want what we don't have. And I was born with dark hair, my dad's hair. So learning to accept those things, and some things we can change, some things we can't. It's an interesting thing, an interesting path to explore, like what should be changed, because we've got now, situations where, as human beings, students that reject all kinds of things about themselves, and sometimes, okay, that's not a big deal. Go color your hair. All right, fine. And then there are other things that have got, longer lasting consequences and come with all kinds of issues. And so I found this book because I'm thinking about the creature, right? He definitely did not line up and match Victor's vision. And I think that that's very common. I think people can relate to that. When you create something, whether it's a song, a work of art, maybe it's your free throw, performance of some type, something, anything, and we all create stuff. and it doesn't match up to what we had in our original vision, we have choices. Do we just reject it? And that's not that uncommon. Yes, it's trash. This is garbage. And we, throw it away. But some of us, there's options to explore. Do I just give up? Do I go back? Do I kintsugi it? The Japanese tradition of putting the broken pieces back together. How do I go about that? So this is a book, and this is kind of a humorous look at it, at a very serious issue, actually. That's the irony, the paradox of this. So this is called I Need a New Butt. It is written by Dawn McMillan and illustrated by Ross Kinnaird. Both of them are from New Zealand. And I saw this in Target and thought, what? And so I picked it up, and it's, there's the humor of it, obviously, and it's on the premise, if I show you the first page, and there's actually, I guess, a series. This is part of a series. We've got, I broke my butt. It's called the New Butt series. I broke my butt is so noisy, my butt is so silly, and then this is, I need a new butt. So there's 4, I guess, in the actual New Butt series. But this is, of course, kind of playing on the idea of, a butt crack, right? The crack, the broken. So we look here, and this kid is noticing his butt crack for the first time. The spread is, I need a new butt. Mine's got a crack. I can see in the mirror crack at the back. So we've got a rhyme thing going on, which definitely influences the tone of this. It's humorous, amusing, funny. But it goes on, with that rhyme, sing-songy kind of thing going on. And he's just convinced that I've got a problem. I've got a real problem. It's broken here. And until he gets, this is the last spread, if I can get the page to open here, until he gets here and he sees his dad. Okay? Dad working under the sink, plumber's disease, right? So we're playing with all the, the cliches, but this is outrageous. Are butt cracks contagious? Dad, your butt crack is showing, right? And so that's when he comes to see, and then next to the last spread. Here's the last spread. And Dad, there's no way of knowing just how far it's going. And then we see the dad, and his butt has, quote, fallen off, right? Because it's broken. And that's where it ends. And it's a funny look at, something we obviously all have. We all, as human beings, have butt cracks, right? But the idea that it's broken and, it's part of a body part and I need a new one, I'm rejecting it, when actually, that is something that's serious and worth exploring. Although now we do have, I don't know what the term for is, but we have plenty of people in this country that have had surgeries to increase the size of their rear ends. That's been a whole thing, with a lot of our females in this country, and not accepting it. I know that even for myself, I always kind of felt like my butt didn't match the rest of my body in proportion. I've got my dad. I can thank Jerry Murphy Person for this. I've got his rear end, and it's wide and flat as a pancake. And that's his. So, doesn't match the rest of me, but it is who I am. And so I think we're going to kind of look at this to provide some humor in looking at the creature and have them kind of think about parts that, things about themselves that they perhaps had rejected, with the idea of learning, that's not an excuse not to try to make things better. But there are some things perhaps that we might need to explore, that we accept them and see the beauty in them. Who's to say what is broken and what's not, right? So anyway, that's kind of where I am, looking forward to kind of going into this and having these important, I think, discussions with my students. They continue to amaze me, thoughtful young people that are they're honest, they're authentic, they're respectful. I really enjoy working with them. So anyway, I need to get back to grading, and I'm hoping that you guys have a good day, Friday, and hope you will be blessed. Thank you.